Welcome to this MegaMinerAI screencast. This video will explain how to obtain and set up the client code for a MegaMinerAI competition. Before we get there, let's clarify a couple of things. Since we'd like to avoid leaking any details about upcoming MegaMinerAI competitions, I'll be reviving MegaMinerAI 9 Space for this demonstration. Also, we're assuming that you've already figured out how to register to compete and form your teams. It's important that you already be on a team before the competition starts. Also, please pay attention to announcements from SIG game developers. In the event that something terrible happens, we may have to change the way that things work. If you have any questions during the competition, please ask a developer. We'll be happy to answer your questions or find someone who can. Now let's talk about the start of the competition. Around noon on Saturday, after we've collected your entrance fees, and everyone's settled down, the SIG game developers will start the competition. This will change your view of the website in a few ways. First of all, the competition running light will turn green. Secondly, and more importantly, the sidebar for the running competition will have new tabs. In particular, the documentation button and code submission button will appear. Eventually, the arena results button will appear, but we'll talk about that at another time. As you can imagine, the documentation button takes you to the client documentation. We'll talk about that more in another video. Let's focus on getting the code first. When you click on the code submission button, you'll notice a new Create Repository button. Clicking this button creates a copy of the MegaMinerAI client code for your team on a remote server. Specifically, it creates a private Git repository that's for your team to use during the competition. In a nutshell, Git allows you to take snapshots of your code at different points in time. Don't worry if you've never used Git before. In a little bit, I'll show you some of the basics of Git, which you'll use to submit your AI to the arena. After clicking Create Repository, you'll notice that you now have a nice Git command available. This command will copy or clone your repository onto your local machine. This will allow you to write your AI using the framework developed by the SIG game developers. You may also notice some existing snapshots. During the competition, the SIG game developers may find problems with the client code. They'll fix bugs by merging their commits into your timeline. This won't have any effect on your AI, but you may notice these developer commits periodically. Okay, so we've logged into a Windows machine and we got the website pulled up. You can see the green lights on, so that tells you that Space is running. I'm going to click on Code Submission. That's going to show us where our repository will be. I'm going to click on the Create Repository button, and that's going to create a repository. So you can see the list of commits that's already there, as well as our Git command. I'm going to go ahead and pop open a PuTTY terminal and SSH into a campus machine. I'm going to type in my password. This is my single sign-on password. You'll use a temp account if you have one. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and, make a new directory for the code. I'm going to change into that directory. Okay, there's nothing in there. So I'm going to go back over to the website. I'm going to grab this URL, or this Git command. I'm going to throw it into the terminal. It's going to ask me for my password. I'm going to type in the password that I used to log into the website. The code looks like it's cloned down. Okay, and there's the directory. I'm going to change into there and see what's in it. Alright, so we got a list of all the files. There's some basic setup you'll have to do at the beginning of the competition so that your code can be compiled and run in the arena and in the final tournament. Before you start modifying files, you need to decide which language you'll be developing in. Your whole team has to develop using the same client language. I'm the only one on my team, and I'm going to choose C++. There are two very important things you have to do to set up your code. The first is rename your makefile, and the second is to rename your run file. Here's how you'll rename your makefile according to your chosen language. Choose the makefile which matches the language you'll be using for competition, and rename that file to just makefile. Since I'm using C++, I'm going to rename makefile CPP to makefile. Now you have to do the same thing for your run file. Choose the run file that matches your chosen language and rename it to just run. Again, I'm using C++, so I'm renaming run CPP to run. Okay, so I have a terminal pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and see what's in here. There's all the code, all the client code. Alright, so since I'm using the C++ client, I'm going to move makefile CPP to just makefile. And I'm going to move run CPP to just run. In order to verify that the code running in the arena is indeed your code, you have to enter your team's credentials into your source code. Make sure that you don't forget to do this. Your code will not run in the arena or in the final tournament if your team credentials are not in your source code. The credentials that you enter are found on your team's page on the website. Here are my team's credentials. Since I'm using the C++ client, I need to edit ai.cpp and add my team credentials to these two functions. If you're using C#, open ai.cs and edit these two methods. If you're using Python, open ai.py and change these two methods. And finally, if you're using Java, open ai.java and change these two methods. If you're having trouble, feel free to ask a developer for help. Alright, so we're in the client. I'm using C++, so I'm going to change into the CPP directory. Okay, so here's all the C++ files. So now let's open up ai.cpp. I'm using Emacs, but feel free to use VI or JPico or whatever editor you're most comfortable with. Okay, alright, so at the top of this file, you can see those two functions. I'm going to go over to the website, I'm going to grab my username, my team's username. I'm going to put that as the return value for this function. Whoop. And then I'm going to go back to the website, copy the password. I'm going to go into the password function and paste that in. Okay. So now I'm going to save that file, and I'm going to go ahead and close it. Now that we've added our credentials to our source code, it's time to take a snapshot of our code so that we can submit our AI to the arena. Here are some very basic commands we'll use with Git to submit our AI. We can check for files that we've changed with Git status, take a snapshot of our changes with Git commit, and upload our code with Git push. Once we upload a snapshot, it'll appear on our list of commits on MegaMinerAI.com. Then, all we have to do to submit our AI is press the Submit to Arena button. Okay, ls, now we're in the CPP folder. I'm going to run git status to see all of the files that changed. Okay, so now all I have to do is run git commit -a. Okay, so now Git wants us to type a log message saying what was changed for this snapshot. I'm going to say that I moved the makefile and run file, and that I also added credentials. I'm going to throw a new line in there and save it. Okay, so that takes a snapshot for us. Now we're going to go ahead and check. Yep, everything's good. So now we're going to push it up to the remote server. I'm going to use the same password that I used to log into the website. Okay. If we go to the website, we can see that new snapshots there, that new commit shows up. And when I'm ready to submit it to the arena, all I have to do is click the Submit to Arena button, and then just type in a name for my submission, and hit Submit. You can see this line in red is here for that commit, and it shows that that's been submitted to the arena. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask a developer for help. That's what we're here for. And don't forget to listen to our announcements during the competition. And with that, on behalf of the SIG game developers, I'd like to wish you the best of luck in this semester's MegaMinerAI.